our proposal that we will start off with a 2007-2008 base, but as soon as the legislation is enacted, it will be adjusted for the rate of inflation from then on, from the date of enactment. So basically, this is a proposal that relieves the general fund of $3,800,000, which can be spent for other purpose, general government purposes, and comes up with a special fund to be used for a dedicated, very worthwhile purpose. You know.
Thank you, George.
Yeah.
Okay, Gloria first.
I'm not sure what you're thinking. Well, I do understand what your thinking is as far as the residents concerned.
Yeah.
However, a fee to facilities will only be passed on to residents. I think we all know that. Secondly, I don't quite understand.
It's a very nominal amount.
Excuse me. I don't quite understand how charging them a fee or having all this extra money come to the ombudsman program is going to provide more security for the assisted living, or
it's not a matter of providing security. It's a matter of providing the ombudsman service.
I know, but you mentioned about that some of the assisted livings don't have a receptionist, don't have security. Anybody could.
I just gave that as an illustration of things that really are not obvious to anybody, say from the Department of Public Health, for example. If they come through and inspect a facility, they may not be aware of a lack of security. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for sanitation.
But how would charging a fee to the facility change that part? That's what I'm saying. If an ombudsman or public health comes there, they don't have to knock and say, "Hey, can I come in?" They are supposed to be free to come in and
they are free to come in, yeah.
Yeah, and inspect and all. So that's not going to change the security for residents at.
Well, in a sense that if we don't have money for the program, remember we've got one-time only appropriations going into this program. They could be dropped at any time. This means we got to cut back on the services of the ombudsman. In other words, in Alameda County, for example, when the governor cut the $3.8 million out of there, they had to get rid of the nonprofit organization that was doing the ombudsman service for the county and actually recruit volunteers. Fortunately, they were able to recruit volunteers, but they've got one person, paid person, managing these volunteers who are the ombudsman. In other words, this is really in sense of maintaining a service that's very valuable. It's not, and the basis of charging it as a license fee is the fact that these facilities, through their, shall we say, mismanagement or occasional mismanagement, are the reason for having the ombudsman. If everybody was purely honest, purely with the best intentions in mind, we wouldn't need police even. You know what I mean? You see what I mean? So it's just a matter of maintaining the service as well as it was back in 2007, and maybe providing for the fact that inflation is going to compress the program in the future unless there's provision for increasing the fee. But the facility is the thing that's causing the problem, and therefore we want to charge the fee to the one who's causing the problem. Remember, 99% of California care facilities have some deficiency under federal law based on inspections. And we're worse. The nationwide thing is 90%, but California happens to be worse than ever, not 99%.
Mm-hmm.
Marsha? The first thing I thought of also was exactly what you said, that this is obviously going to be passed on to the patient or the person who's there.
Yeah, but remember, it's 3.6 cents a day.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Let's say I own one of these places. I have 100 beds, and I have 20 people at the moment. Mm-hmm. Okay, does that mean the people that are there will pay the difference if I have to pay per bed, and I own the facility, and I only have a partial number of people now in my beds, and I have to pay per bed, who's going to pay for the rest of the ones that aren't being used? Will that also be passed on to the people who are there? Because if you have a home with 100 people,
Yeah.
you have to pay for 100 beds. Is that right?
Right, yeah.
Okay. Well, in passing this on to the residents who are there, and there's only 50 of them in a 100-room facility,
Yeah.
who pays for the other 50 that are not being used? Is that also passed on to the 50 who are there? I guess I'm trying to...
Well, you're assuming that the facility is not very well filled after.
Well, I'm just, I don't know. I mean, some of them are brimming over with people, but some aren't. And I just,
Yeah.
I'm concerned, my main concern is for the people who are there. And again, assuming another, amount of money.
well,
The idea,
yeah.
as far as
If
no
you-
government, perfect. That's wonderful. I think it should be out of the general fund. I'm
Right.
just concerned about the rest of it.
Well, the thing is, if you only have half your beds filled, it's the same thing as a hotel only having half their rooms sold out. There's other costs of operating the facilities besides just the ombudsman program. They've got to spread their overhead, which may be utilities, rent, you name it. It still goes on also, and they've got to spread that around somehow.
I realize that, but who's
Yeah.
going to pay for the empty 50 beds? Who will then pay for those beds?
Well,
The
I think
people who are there,
The peop-
or...
the rents are. If I was the operator of a facility, I would assume that when setting my rents, that I'm going to have a certain percentage of occupancy for the year. Say it's 80% on a year end, not just one day. I'm fit down to 50%, but as an average, I would say, okay, I hope to have my beds 80% filled on an average for the year. This is the way you would manage the facility. And I would take all my costs, I mean, rent, utilities, the food service, whatever, and allocate it on the basis that 80% of the beds are going to be filled. This is just another minor cost
Okay. So it's
of
not
operating the
actually...
facility.
Okay, I'll quit here, but I guess I'm just stuck on this, that a person, if they're supposed to pay $13 and something a year, I mean, if that's what the bed is,
20, yeah.
whatever.
$13.20, yeah.
That they'll now be paying more. That's all I'm concerned
Yeah.
about.
But remember, I also said that even under Medi-Cal, Medicaid, that they are already allowed an 8% profit. So based on that thing is that $13.20 a year is pretty nominal. Because the rents on these facilities run into many thousands of dollars a year.
All right,
Yeah.
okay. We have 4 left to go, and that's all we're going to be entertaining. So, Norma, please, you go ahead first.
Okay, sir. As I understand it, you are proposing that the Ombudsman's office be involved in assessing the fee to the facility. Is that correct?
Well, yes. Right now, through the Department of Aging, you have the licensing fees for these facilities,
Right.
for skilled nursing facilities through the Public Health Department and through the Social Services
Okay.
Department,
It's-
the residential
Proposal
facilities.
time has
Yeah.
expired.
It's a beautiful idea. The only concern I have
give it 5.
is that
I want you
there
to ask your
may
question.
seem a bit of impropriety with the Ombudsman's office, who you are trying to get funding for, be involved in assessing the fee to these facilities for the Ombudsman.
No, he didn't say that.
It just, I think there could be a conflict of interest. That's my only concern.
Well, we could put it up to the Department of Aging, which is the state ombudsman is part of the Department of Aging. So it would be the Department of Aging. They have a conflict of interest also because they are involved in the licensing of these facilities.
Okay.
And so, whatever their license fees are set for, I mean, this would be just another addition. And I consider it a minor addition because the licensing fees probably runs, depending on the size of the facility, anywhere from hundreds to thousands of dollars a year.
Okay. George, I hate to say this to you, but could you kind of limit your...
What?
Because we've run out of time, but
Yeah.
we have the 3 questions, so I'm asking for extension of 5 minutes. So I'm just letting you know, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
So Terry's next.
This ombudsman program is an absolutely good program. I agree with this 100%, and I know it's underfunded. And I know that we need to fund it morely, that's a good word, morely. But we need to fund it. We need to fund it,
Yeah.
okay? But my only concern is how many hands is it going to go through before it gets to the ombudsman? That's my concern because I know how that works. I get federal government money, but the time it trickles down to me, I only get 70% because the state and the county and everybody else has had their, get their little cut. So that's my only concern. If we could take this and fund it, get the licensing to whatever it needs to be done,
Yeah.
but then it goes right straight to the ombudsman and it don't go through a whole bunch of layers of cuts where everybody takes your little salary out for Jane and Fred and Ted and...
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm taking it away from the general fund of the state and putting it into what we call accounting-wise a special fund,
Yeah.
which is devoted for the purpose of supporting this program.
Okay.
And it would be collected at the state level, but then funded out to the county social services agencies that actually run the local ombudsman program.
So it's going to go through 2 sets of hands,
Yeah.
state and county. Okay.
Okay. Bob?
I'm 100% behind maintaining and adequately funding the ombudsman program, but I don't think that this proposal is the best way to go about sustaining the ombudsman program. A couple reasons. Number one is that I think, aside from the conflict of interest question that Norma was referring to, I think it was, I don't see how we can ask a state program, the ombudsman program, to be funded solely by monies from a small portion of the private sector. And you say that you want to take funding of the ombudsman program out of the state's responsibility, out of the general fund, and have it be solely funded by fees charged to the private facilities.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the right way to go. I would like to think that, like state parks and many of the other state programs, we all share in the cost of that. To take it one step farther, you would say, well, only people that go to state parks have to pay for the Parks Department. And, of course, I don't think we agree with that. At least I don't. So I don't think you can have a private, a niche of private business people be the ones funding a state department and then ask the State Department to oversee them. So I think we need to come up with other ways besides this particular measure for maintaining and sustaining the ombudsman program.
Well, how would you suggest that would be changed? Because we either have, in government, you either have a general fund or you have special funds, and special funds usually are derived from license fees and special charges that the government makes.
To answer that question, I would have to come up with a proposal that would have to be submitted for next year, but one quick answer could be a combination rather than it all being from private
Well, there
funds.
is a combination of money now. There's federal money coming in.
Well, I'm talking about state and private.
The
That's
state,
what our business
the
is.
state dropped its, shall we say, support back in 2007
Fully aware of that.
completely. And it had emergency appropriations since then to make
Okay.
up part of the difference.
We have to move on, so Dolores, you're the last.
Okay, I happen to agree with you and with you. There were very pertinent questions that were asked of you, but I have another one, and more global. You would be coming up against a very powerful lobby. The nursing, and I've had some experience with the legislative arena, and I'm very familiar with this. The nursing home lobby is one of the most powerful human service lobbies in the country, and they would really leap on you at this. Also, there's another lobbying group, not so powerful, but also very concerned, and that is CASA, California Association of Homes for the Aged. They're not going to like the idea of being assessed, and they are going to fight it tooth and nail with all of the other problems this has. I happen to think that the Ombudsman program is one of the best programs we have, but we've got to find a different way of getting funding to it, because this is going to blow up in our faces. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, well, you're left with only two alternatives, really. You have general fund, which has been under attack and is subject to all kinds of political whims and the veto pen of a governor. And you have the other thing is specific monies charged for specific services.
Right.
And who else is going to pay them other than the
We
nursing?
don't. That's a different
these
issue.
care
That's a
facilities.
different question.
Yeah.
I think you're going to come up against. We would come up
But
against
we also have
terrible resistance.
everything we propose that involves money is going to have special interests
There's Shirley's
opposing
back.
it.
Okay, thank you very much. Motion to move for a vote. Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chairman, there is a very minor spelling correction that I would like to make to this. If it passes unanimously, it would still go to the consent calendar, but I'd like your permission, the committee's permission, to make the spelling change should this pass. It's not the Mellow Greenland.
Oh.
Older Californians Act is the Mellow Grandland.
Oh, okay. So there's a spelling error.
It's a minor spelling error, but I would like permission to make that should the bill
Okay,
should the bill pass.
thank you. All right, make a motion to vote.
I make a motion to vote.
So be it. All in favor of this, please raise your hand. All opposed? Shirley can't vote. Abstention? Sorry, George.
Okay.
Could you go on to your next one now on page 139? Oh, yes?
I have Assemblymember Purcell, who has two others to present on and would like to return to her committee for a vote. Can I insert her in between his two?
What?
George,
Yeah.
I have Assemblymember Purcell,
Yeah.
who has a proposal to present to this committee.
Yeah.
She has two others at other committees and would like to return to her own for a vote. With your permission, I'd like her to go next.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Just don't go anywhere, George. She's. We are going to switch over to Assemblymember Purcell, and it is on page 125. 125. This should be easy. All right, we're on page 125, AP 20, Nutrition Services Financial Assistance from Pharmaceutical Companies. Welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. Don, I'm sorry. This is in regards to one I had last year. It is $3. Excuse me. It is money from the pharmaceuticals. I think the attorney took off the amount of money. She thought it was the best. The prices are raising like mad, and therefore nutrition has gotten bad in the centers. We have about 100 or 200 people asking for free lunches now. It's increased. They are giving 12 at one center and 40 at another, and they're arguing about it. And what they're doing is sending them home to get, from home, they're sending them to get tickets one day, and the next day they're getting a free lunch if they get it. But when they only have 40 and there's so many, lunches are supposed to be free according to the old American Act for everybody, but they have to limit it. There's not that much money left. And I tried to get it through last year, and I wasn't being able to get it through because of the restriction, but the attorney took off the amount. I think it was 50 cents a prescription, and she didn't think that was enough, and so she took off the amount. But it would be whatever the companies would get, but they have to find some form of funding to give lunches to seniors. The money is not there. Also, I understand from other people the governor is going to close some of the senior centers. Now, that's going to limit the amount of lunches, too, that people are going to get. And they're supposed to give healthy lunches, and they've been willing them down to where they have more lunches, but the nutrition is really getting poor. And everything is going up. Apartment is going up, and it hasn't come down. Food is going up. Energy is going up, and seniors can't afford it. And they're not getting what we call healthy meals. Now, I would like to have somebody really vote for this, for the SAC FAC for seniors, and they need it. Now, I'm trying to get the pharmaceuticals. The pharmaceuticals prices have gone up 30 to 40% a year, I understand. Some drugs, not all of them, but some drugs. That's the brand name drugs. And not only that, but they're getting short. So, and people are not eating them like they should, or taking them like they should. They're maybe supposed to take a whole pill, and they're taking a half, or they're taking a quarter, because they can't afford it. Now, this is up to you, whatever you want to do, but it's getting critical.
All right,
And
questions? Terry, you're first.
I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but I have two facilities, and I have seniors eating there for nothing, for free, right? But it's my job to raise enough money because, like I said before, that the federal government, the money that I get down to me is only 70% of what I need to operate with. So I have to raise the other 30%. And that's picking up beer cans, trading in bottles, doing whatever, spaghetti dinners, pancake breakfast, whatever it is to raise that money to subsidize the nutrition site. And as far as healthy menus goes, menus is you have to have a registered dietitian make out your menu, and then you have to, and that's your dietitian, and then it has to go to the county dietitian, and they tweak it.
Well, then how come in some of them they're only given 12 or 18 lunches free? Because they don't have the money.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You have to get out there and fund it.
That's what I'm saying. It has to be funded.
But not through for pharmacy. Go to the drugstore or Walmart and ask them for a grant. Ask them for a donation. And I do that. I got a $1,500 donation from Walmart, but I went and asked them for it.
Well, okay, I did take my proposals in 3 times to Walgreens and to ask them for it. They were thinking about it, but they never...
They won't take a proposal. You go in there and say, hey, I'm feeding seniors, and the seniors shop at your store, and I'd like to have
I'm not feeding seniors. They're paying the providers to feed seniors, the county is, or the Office of Aging. That's where the money's coming from, and they don't have it. And that's all I can say. And
they only have 70% of what they need.
Well, I don't know what they have, but they don't have enough. They've restricted them to 8 and 12. Maybe you're wonderful. I think you're doing an outstanding job getting money, yeah, but not everybody's like that.
Well,
You can't judge everybody like that to do that. That's wonderful that you're doing that, but not everybody's the same. And that's what they're going, and they're going hungry. Now, are you going to be able to give money to all of them? No, you can't. You're wonderful in doing it to your center, but that's it. But not all the other senators are having had that. They're not. Some of the places are closing. That's all I can tell you. If it's right, if that's what I understand the governor's going to do, if he doesn't get some more money. Now, we are not only under the Older American Act, which should be free, but we are also under the Older California Act that should be providing, and they're not. They don't have the money to provide them.
can I say something?
Go ahead.
That is the problem right there. Older American Act, it should be free.
You're right, but the GOP is not paying to have it.
No, it shouldn't be free. It should be free. We provide a dinner and we ask for a donation. Don't say it's free, because if it's free, you have everybody in the world coming there for free stuff. But if you say we ask for a donation,
it's
then that
supposed to be free according to the Older American Act. Is it? No. Is it what they're paying? No. A lot of people are not getting it because it can't be free. They don't have the money. The counties don't have the money.
It shouldn't. They don't. There's nowhere it says in the Older American Act that it's free.
Well, I'm sorry. In the Older American Act, it does say it should be free. And Johnson provided it. That's what I read, and that's all I can say. And that's what the county told me, too. It should be free, but it's not. Okay?
Okay, Ted?
Yes, I think you're limiting yourself.
Wait, here you go.
You're limiting the program by just mentioning the pharmaceutical companies. In San Diego, what we do has many sponsors and have many partnerships. So I would encourage you to eliminate the word pharmacy and just go after the pharmaceutical company for a partner. I would also seek other partners to help with the program as we have done.
I can direct the county. They're responsible for the program. I can direct the county to do that. That doesn't mean they're going to do it. I don't have it. I'm not in charge of it. All I know is the seniors are not getting fed.
I'm referring to your bill, ma'am. I think you're limiting your proposal on your bill by mentioning the pharmaceutical companies when there are lots of other partners that you can partner with.
Can you give me information as to all the other partners that you suggest that we will fulfill? Because we haven't been able to do it.
Well, perhaps we can meet afterwards, but we're pertinent to this bill at this very moment. And all I'm saying is that you're limiting yourself by just mentioning the pharmaceutical company.
Well, the reason why I'm mentioning the pharmaceutical is because they're making the most money. I could go after the oil companies, but they're not going to give anything.
No, that's my only comment, ma'am.
Right. Okay, I will check with you afterwards. If you don't think this is worthy to be passed when people are going hungry, and I'm glad that this gentleman is providing for it in his county, but they're not even providing for it in Riverside and San Bernardino. I don't know about all the other ones, but as far as I know, most of the counties have problems paying for it, and they're not even able to give more than 12, pay for more than 12 ounces, or to get the subsidies to it. Yeah, it's been raised to $3 a lunch now. But I understand it's not as nourishing as it used to be, or tasteful as it used to be.
May I suggest that you talk to Ted later about this?
Okay, that'll be fine.
I think he is referring to what you've written here, and I think he has some suggestions.
I'd be very happy to talk to him.
So we've got 2 more to go here. And
so what do you want to...
Well, if you could hold, please, because we got 2 more people with comments to make.
Okay.
Dolores?
I don't know. I know that the nutrition program, like all our programs, are suffering. But I don't know why in the world the pharmaceutical industry would even care. I do make a suggestion to you. If this is something you really think might go, you might want to think about going to, or the state, or could go to the food industry that has a lot more to do with providing food to people than pharmaceutical industry, and they might make donations. But I can't see this happening.
Marcia?
Well, they said I should be getting donations from somewhere, and this would be a good thing for a prescription company to give a donation. That's all I tried.
I absolutely agree that pharmaceuticals make a lot of money. However, I don't think you can make a law that says to encourage anyone to do anything. I think encouraging just isn't part of a law. How could the state encourage? That word doesn't fit into a law, I believe. And I do wish you a lot of luck in finding some groups that would do this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's...
Make a motion that we take a vote.
Thank you. All right. We got threes now. All right, all in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? Abstention? Oops, I'm sorry. She didn't finish counting yet.
So put the nose,
Please raise your hands again.
the nose. Thank you.
Okay, so it failed? 12. Any abstention? All right. One abstention. One abstention. Assemblymember Purcell, I'm gonna make one comment.
Yes, please.
I think what you're trying to do is wonderful. I am a commissioner on the Commission of Aging as well, and I am working on an issue similar to this. My recommendation to you is don't look to the pharmaceutical companies. You need to search for other avenues. There are other avenues to pursue. I'm going to suggest to you one thing, and I can talk to you later about this. I went talking to raise money for CSL to fraternal organizations. And the one thing I said to them, and I suggest you think about doing this, is to tell them that they don't do anything for seniors. And all the seniors who have worked to raise money for all these other things for the children and everything, they need to start thinking about how to feed our seniors. So I'm going to suggest to you that you need to look, like they suggested, on other avenues. Because the pharmaceutical companies are not the way to go. So the reason this failed is because you limit it to pharmaceutical. I would keep going with this, okay? That's our suggestion. Thank you.
You bet.
And may I ask Assemblymember Tucker to come back up here? Thank you very much.
And I'd like to meet with you also. I'll give you some suggestions.
So we'll do this over dinner, okay?
Dinner.
Yeah. Thank you. We're running out of time in a way, so George, could you please come back up, and we're going to go to page 139. $139. I think I'm 139, right? Yep. 139. This is the AP 29 Office of State Long-Term Care Ombudsman Designation of Functions and Authority. No, the other one was a different one. Okay, go ahead.
In reviewing the statutes, the Older Americans Act and the Older Californians Act, I found an interesting situation. The Older Americans Act has a very detailed description of the function of the State Ombudsman Office, very much in detail. We come down to the state law, the Older Californians Act, which was adopted to implement the provisions of the federal Older Americans Act, and the law describes the position of the state ombudsman as, quote, extremely important, advises the director of the California of Aging as to how to recruit for the position, in words, where to advertise for it if it becomes open, and lists in some detail the qualifications of the person holding the job, what he should possess, such as education, experience, personality, absence of conflict of interest, etc. But however, the California law does not list the functions, responsibilities, or the authority for the position of the office. It was strangely left out of the legislation. I don't know why. The current state ombudsman has requested that this change in state law be amended in order that his duties and responsibilities will be made clear at the state level. Right now, he has to rely on federal law to say, we should do this, we should do that, we should not do the other thing. However, what happens generally in politics is they can say, well, the heck with the federal law. State law says, we doubt whether you have the authority to do this or that. So basically what he wants to do is really get his job duties defined as it is in federal law. Federal law does a good job of defining it. And therefore he feels that he can act more independently. And the other situation is that having worked 10 years in local government, in responsible positions in local government, I know that if any government employee is following to the letter his job description, the duties, responsibilities, and so forth, you can't fire him. So basically, this is a no-cost situation, just amending an absence, you may say an omission in the California law, putting into local law what is already in the federal law.
All right. Any comments, questions? Bob?
Two things. So basically what you're saying is to update the job description.
Yeah. Well, could you imagine a job description saying how you're going to your experience and so forth, what are you supposed to do when you get the job?
But the thrust of what you're proposing is to update the job description as per the federal Older Americans Act.
Using the language in the federal law.
And my second thing is, would you clarify what you mean on it's line 67, bottom of page 141, where you say to add to the job description the duty to determine on an independent basis what testimony or information should be provided to the state legislature.
Okay, that's an addition. I'm glad you caught that because I didn't mention it. There is some advice from the federal. It's guidance. There's some guidance been provided by the Federal Administration on Aging that the state ombudsman program, in addition to what's in the federal law, be given the authority to, quote, independently determine what testimony or information should be provided to a state legislature. So in other words, this gives him, the state ombudsman office can go before the state legislature committees or any state legislator and fearlessly be able to explain his position on anything. Follow me?
Yeah, but it also means they could withhold whatever information they wanted to. If they're determining what will be provided.
Independent testimony. Right now, that is not clear in the federal law. But has been, shall we say, enhanced by some advice that came from the Federal Administration on Aging.
Okay. I just wasn't clear on what the words meant there.
Am I on? Oh, any more questions? Motion to approve this, or motion to vote for this process?
Make a motion to vote.
Okay.
I second it.
All right. All in favor, raise your hand. Against, raise your hand. Okay. Abstention? Yeah. We have one change of vote here.
Change vote to yes.
It's passed.
Thank you.
Right? What's the vote count? I don't think she raised her hand. So did you raise your hand for abstention?
No.
Oh, okay, she didn't. She hadn't even voted.
My vote is yes, not abstention. Sorry, Tanya.
So it's passed. Thank you, George.
Okay, very good.
I am passing the chair back to Alice.
Oh. Please stand.
We're gonna
Oh, the mic.
Yeah, so he's got 111 and 140. Yeah, two left.
Okay.
I don't know.
We have
I'm just saying yes or no.
Two left.
We have two left. Page 111.
I think that's him. Let's ask him to come up.
Assembly Member Michael Haas, would you please come forward? Aloha.
He said aloha.
Aloha.
Do they say aloha or Ohio? Whichever. It's all Japanese.
I hate these discrimination
So
things.
there's more Filipinos on the island.
I know, it's so much.
Right, this one.
So basically, it's it just irritates me that they keep bringing it up. They don't have
This one,
faucets there.
it was only 2 no's and 2 abstentions, 1 abstention. So whatever we have, count the rest. There's more approval than anything else. This one was 1 abstention off there.
Okay, this one is for AP 8, sex discrimination. Do we have any objection to discuss this? Hearing none, yes. Would you please go forward?
Thank you very much. As everyone recalls, there was a lot of effort to pass an equal rights amendment as an amendment to the federal Constitution. And California was one of 35 states that ratified. So was Hawaii, which was the first. The number needed was 38, and even though there was an extension of the period of time for ratification, it didn't work. However, 20 states had an equal rights amendment to their own state constitution, including Hawaii. California did not, has never had an equal rights amendment. And when I came from Hawaii here, I was shocked. The California law bans discrimination based on employment, public education, and public contractors. But that leaves enormous loopholes in our state constitution, let alone the law. Hate crimes, private schools, states with those schools that have funding are covered by a law. They're not in the Constitution, but they're covered by a law to ban discrimination. But it does not include public accommodations, criminal justice, even voting can be discriminatory based on gender or sex. And that could apply equally to males or females. And so my simple proposal is to adopt the Equal Rights Amendment to the state constitution, similar to the Equal Rights Amendment that California has already ratified at the federal level and just never got around to doing it at the state level. There are many other states, in other words, that we can join. We just didn't join. And it's not too late.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Any discussion? Thank you, Bob.
I would like to see the federal government and each of the states pass anti-discrimination and equal access legislation. However, I kind of feel like the CSL exists to proposed legislation specifically for the benefit of seniors, and this will, in a magnificent way, help everybody. And so, as much as I would like this to be law, I don't think it's a CSL proposal because it's not specifically directed toward improving seniors.
I should point out that the...
Not that seniors aren't included in this.
Yeah, I understand. I should point out that the CSL 2 years ago had a resolution before it which was chaptered. That resolution was for the United States to ratify the Convention on the Rights of the Woman. And if that objection applied, then of course it wouldn't have been adopted by CSL. CSL felt that it was important to adopt this international treaty, even though it applied, like you said, to all ages. But so apparently you were not present to vote no on that for that reason, or you abstained.
I was, and I did.
Yes, please.
CSL may only be about doing things for seniors, but perhaps it's time CSL stands up and be counted on something as important as this.
Betty?
I believe the CSL proposal you're speaking about was Bud Winslow's when he brought it up, because America's the only country in the whole United Nations or NATO or whatever that has not passed this. All other countries has, and yes, I'm for this. Thank you.
Although, of course, you know, Somalia had not ratified it. And I might also point out that having also been accepted by CSL, by the California legislature, hearings were actually held in Washington as a result. Not that they ratified, but the California action caused the hearings in Washington on that treaty. Yeah.
Ted.
Yes, I think this is great. I think I would like to add age discrimination along with the list of non-discriminations.
I'll take that up in my next proposal.
Yeah, good idea.
So what does that mean, Bob?
Yeah, that will get voted down here. Everybody's...
Would the author be open to an amendment that would add age to the list of characteristics described here? Thereby legislating against age discrimination as well as gender and the others.
In other words, some suggestion here is to amend it and add some wording here to...
Well, of course, I could not possibly oppose, but this might complicate or might make easier. You tell me. In other words, I would accept such an amendment, but there might be some people who would see this would be complicating it to the point where it would not be adopted. I don't know.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Cutler?
First of all, there's already age discrimination laws on the books, federal law. So I don't think we need it. And I agree with my colleague here. I think I think it's time.
Jane? Yes, Ms. Rio?
I changed my mind.
Oh, you changed your mind. Gloria?
Yes, you commented to somebody that you must not have been here or not voted against it. I was here and I voted against it at the time, and I was questioned. And my point is there's so many laws on the books already about discrimination in the workplace, discrimination here and discrimination there. And who enforces this? What is? I felt, and I feel again that there's so many important proposals in there. I don't mean to say waste it, but I hate to use it on something that is actually on the books because of the federal government. And, well, it is, and there are others about the other, and who enforces these things? How do you know? If I get passed over, do I say, was it because I'm a woman? Is it because I'm Hispanic? Or is it because I'm dumb that I got passed up? You know, and I can say it's because I'm a woman and make a big to-do about it. But there's no enforcing. Unless it's really obvious, and people are going to be ugly. You know, you're a woman, you can't do that.
Well, you've raised a number of interesting points. I think the main issue you're raising is what's the point of putting something else on the books when it isn't going to be enforced?
On top of everything.
I want to answer that point by pointing out that's my background, civil rights. I have filed complaints on numerous occasions, especially on behalf of women. And even though I'm not a lawyer, I'm a political scientist. And we get action as a result of these complaints, especially if they're filed with the federal agencies that have jurisdiction. They have people that will investigate, and they did investigate. And changes have been made. Every single one of my complaints resulted in tremendous change. And it was in Hawaii, by the way, which is not supposed to have discrimination, as you may know. We didn't have affirmative action until I filed a complaint as a statewide program. We had non-whites not being served properly or adequately in terms of their percentage of the population or their need in welfare and in many other issues until I filed my complaint. I also filed a complaint about public librarians being paid less, women being paid less than men, and we got action. We went to court on it. Yes, there is tremendous response to discrimination complaints, but interestingly, the number one result of having a law or a constitutional amendment passed is that it changes the mood of the public, because the 95% of all the discrimination that used to occur doesn't occur now because of voluntary compliance. Once a legislative body, or the people, in the case of a constitutional amendment, adopted by the people, once it is adopted, it changes the mood of the legal approach. And we all know things have changed dramatically since the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Thank you. Mr. Mong?
What I was going to say is that if we have a layer of the federal government that is addressing this issue, what is a big difference that it's going to make if you make it into the state level?
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you raised that point, because that is my next proposal, as a matter of fact, that sex discrimination at the federal level has serious gaps, and we can correct it. We shouldn't wait for Congress to act on this. We have a state of California, and we ought to adopt those things in California that cover us, even if the rest of the country isn't covered by legislation that's non-discriminatory. California was the leader, you remember, in adopting into its constitution a ban on sex discrimination. So, but it was only in certain areas, as I mentioned. Okay. So we now want to put it through all areas.
Yeah, but for now, we want to concentrate on this particular issues, not next proposal.
Not the next
Just
one.
this proposal.
Or if you'd like, you could suspend, I suppose, consideration until we took up the other, but that would be
Yes.
a motion you would have to accept.
I'm going to finish this one.
Yeah, okay. Yes, okay, there's a suggestion to call for a question. I would like to hearing the motion first. Okay, Marcia moved. Anyone second? Second by Jan. Okay. Any further question, clarification? Hearing none, we are going to vote. For those agree, please raise your hand for yes, for I vote. 6, 9, 10. 10. Okay, let you count. Sorry.
Yeses again, please.
Yeses again.
And for those vote for no, please raise your hand. Abstain, please raise your hand. 2, 3, 4. I voted. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. The motion passed. Okay. So the following one, that is page 143.
Now I have to back up on this to the March on Washington of 1963. It was mainly, of course.
Wait. Are you starting? Hold on. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you had agreed to.
No, sorry. Okay, so we're going to vote on AFP3, sex discrimination in federally funded programs and activities. Anyone against to hearing this one? No, hearing none. Yes, we may proceed.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
In the March on Washington, of course, the whole thrust of it was to ban discrimination in employment based on race. But in 1963, Congress passed a piece of legislation called the Equal Pay Act, which provided non-discrimination based on gender or sex. But in so doing, there were loopholes, or put it this way, there were stringent requirements of that law that made it almost unenforceable. As you pointed out, sometimes things are unenforceable. In 1964, Congress did pass that law that involved employment discrimination, banning race. But somebody in Congress at the time who was opposed to the law thought, we'll put an amendment, a killer amendment, and we will add gender discrimination or sex discrimination, that we will ban in Title VII sex discrimination in employment, thinking that that would defeat it. Well, guess what? It passed. Hurrah. But there was a Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. Title VI, which was not affected by this amendment, provides that federally funded programs cannot discriminate on the basis of race. When they send out money, in other words, from the federal government to a program such as the one that was being talked about a few minutes ago, that you cannot discriminate on the basis of race. But gender wasn't included. Some 8 years later, Representative Patsy Mink of Hawaii was able to get support for what is called Title IX, which means that you cannot discriminate in federally funded education programs. At the same year, in 1972, a law was passed that you cannot discriminate on the basis of gender in programs of public health. And subsequently, there has been a patchwork of different laws with different coverages, and not just one law amending Title VI of the Civil Rights Act to say no discrimination in federally funded programs on the basis of race or sex. And that's what I'm proposing, that we amend that law and insert sex discrimination in addition to race. And therefore, we don't have to have this patchwork of laws with all the loopholes, including, as I discovered through some petitions that I undertook and some complaints I sent both to the state and to the federal government, that senior programs are not included. So in a senior program, such as the ones that you've been talking about, you could presumably say, as people come in for their lunch at a federally funded lunch program, you could say, this is the women's menu and this is the men's menu, and have it completely different. Or you could say, well, today is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is for women, and Tuesday and Thursday is for men. And it would be perfectly legal, according to the law, as it is now. By amending the law, as I propose, that could not happen. That would be the end of it. And it wouldn't be just in senior programs, it'd be in other programs. But it came to light, in my case, in a senior program. And that's why I filed the complaint. And went over to the Department of Social Services on Monday, and it said, what happened to my complaint that I filed last October, and from which I've heard nothing? And the state said the same thing the federal government said, although in this case it was a person telling me it's not covered by the law. So therefore, your complaint, even though the federal government said you can't try to contact your state government, maybe the state government has a law. Here's an address, here's a place. State doesn't cover it either. But if the federal covers it, the state will cover it so long as the state matches funds that come from the federal government. So that is really all my proposal involves. And naturally, I tried to contact the National Organization for Women and in Washington to see what they thought about this. And their first question was, are you a member of the National Organization for Women? Because anybody would know that they are in favor of amending Title VI in this manner. And if you want me to go through all the petition and all that sort of thing, I will be happy to do so.
Ms. Sharon Avery, I have a question. Regarding Title IX, I thought that's discrimination against sex. It's not really a women. It's you cannot discriminate men or women.
As Mr. Haas said, in that Title IX covers the fields of education and nothing else. Yeah. Title IX is like sports teams at a university. If there's a men's, they have to be proportionate women's opportunities in those areas. But it does only cover education.
But that means within the education institute, men and women.
Correct. Men and women have to
but it doesn't apply to
anything
outside of education.
Outside of education.
No. I see. Okay, thank you. Thanks. Any question? No? Nobody has a comment? Okay, Bob.
I just have a question. I was curious. You said you filed a complaint because you found gender discrimination at a senior center or in a senior program where you were?
Yes.
Could you, without breaking confidence, could you give us an idea of what that discrimination was that you found?
Yes, and you're happy to look at all this, but basically what happened, briefly, there is a senior program within a larger program in Los Angeles, and if I were to list the number of co-ed programs, you would be impressed. If I were to list the number of one-sex programs, male only and female only, you would discover that one is 3 to 4 times the number of the other. And these are for seniors. And in other words, one gender is getting more benefit. And there was a $300,000 grant to this AG for this program. And yet one gender is getting the primary benefit. And that's why I had a petition and a complaint and so forth. I did discover in the process that people lower in age, non-seniors, have the same complaint. But that's not what I have in mind here. What I had in mind was this was a senior program. This law that you just heard about, the Older Americans Act, does not have a non-discriminatory based on sex provision in its law. So my feeling is rather than just amend another another law, another little patchwork here. Just amend the entire law and be done with it. Because who knows, by stealth, it might be taken out of something, and we wouldn't know. It might be taken out of this. Title IX might be abolished or amended or something. And so rather than having this kind of stealth operation where different patches cover different things, we should have one uniform law that says no discrimination based on gender.
But isn't it so true, Mike, like in small business or whatever, if it's a woman owner of a small business, then they get federal funding money because they classify women as a minority, like any colored race people. So is this what you're referring to?
Oh, no. No, it was
because you mentioned
it was a social service
certain
program.
sex get it and certain sex didn't get it.
Yes.
So I thought that you are really talking, because
But
I don't
men
know
get
any
these,
law that...
the reason why they have a women's program is
Would you
because
please let me finish?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because I never heard about federal funding to a men's group, then women will be complaining, or you probably will be filing a lawsuit.
No.
But now I heard the federal government funding for the small business, if it's owned by women, then they get privilege. I mean, more consideration. Okay.
What
So I
happens
want
is
to make
most of the people who apply are men. So they set up a special program that handles women's issues, and they reserve a certain amount of money for women. But in view of the fact that most of the money goes to men, it's not really a matter that classifies as discrimination based on gender.
So you're saying you're not complaining if man is getting it or not getting it, you are not complaining because women didn't get it?
What I'm complaining is that the people designing the program have deliberately excluded or treated somebody differently based on gender after they get the funds. Not before, but after they get the funds. And there's nothing in the receipt of the funds that prohibits them from doing this. Title VI would take care of that. And this, what you're referring to, is another piece of legislation which would stand on its own and would not be effective.
Any other question? Mr. Monk?
Are you saying that in this particular incident, there were, let's say, 100 people that qualified for these monies or for these services, and let's say 60 were of one gender and 40 of the others, and there was no other participants other than this group? And because there was 100 of these gender and 40 of the others, the ones that the majority were being discriminated against the others. Is that what the case is?
It was more 75-25 or 80-20.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
In other words, the gender of the person running the program gets the benefits of the program.
Okay, what I'm saying is that the participants of this particular exercise, if I may, you had 100 people, 75% one, or 75 of them were one gender and 25 the other, and because you don't have 50-50, was that considered discriminating?
It was the number of programs. In other words,
I'm talking about participants.
Well, that's something else. What I'm talking about is the number of programs that were available to people to take, and from which people were excluded. So, in other words, out of 30 programs in a given month, 10 of them were for one sex, 20 were for another sex, say, if you changed it. And if people of one gender tried to attend the meetings or activities, free lunches, free dinners, or whatever, tried to attend the other, they were told, this is not for you. You're the wrong gender.
So if you were in a senior center and they were providing quilting classes, and there were only so many of one gender and 1/3 of the other gander, was that considered discriminatory?
Some programs might be more appropriate.
Well, I'm just exaggerating, but
to be of one sex. What my complaint was that many of these programs are not appropriate just for one gender, but people were excluded. For example, if you had a speed dating program and it was set up for lesbians but not set up for gays, then that would be an example of a program that could have been for both genders but wasn't.
But isn't also true any application coming in for federal funding, they look at it by the merits of the application.
True.
With special consideration for women as a minority.
No.
So this is what you are against?
No, this particular grant was given as a senior grant, a senior program grant. And therefore sex discrimination issues did not enter into the deliberation. What I'm trying to do in my proposal is to ensure that when the grant is proposed, they sign off that they will not discriminate on the basis of gender, and will show exactly both before and after what they did, and that they did not exclude one group or favor one group more than another.
I don't see it, what you said there, and I'm looking at your whereas page 144. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I thought we were going to be voting on his proposal, and now we're talking about, if I believe, what you went to court for. Didn't we get off on another subject on what you sued for? Isn't that what we're talking about?
Basically, because of my experience in this discrimination in a senior program,
right,
I discovered that gender discrimination is not banned in senior programs, federally funded.
I agree with you, but I think that's just an aside from what we're voting on. You're talking about the case that you brought against the government,
yes,
which is not part of this proposal. I think
no,
we need
it was
to
just an example of why there would be a need.
I understand that. But
proposal time has expired.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we are going to call for the vote. For those who agree with us, AFP3, please raise your hand.
I'm confused.
For those, did you get it, Tanya? Thank you. For those who are against it, please raise your hand. For those who want to abstain, please raise your hand. So what is the verdict, Tanya?
10 aye, 3 no, 2 abstain.
Thank you. The motion passed. Congratulations.
Aloha to all of you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have more?
No, that's it.
That's it? We have it. We finished the whole thing here. Good. We're ahead of time. Yeah, well, not really, though. Not really. We still have how many? 2 hours to kill?
15 minutes late, not ahead of time.
Oh, I think we'll find something.
Well, okay. Thank you so much. Anyone wants to add anything? No? Good. Meeting recessed. Thank you.